get a little closer because I want y'all to be able to hear me when I start this engine up. So today we're going to do the Class A pre-trip, and for the new people, you have the sheets. For you guys, I'm pretty sure y'all got your sheet. If y'all need an extra one, let me know. I'll give you one. You need one?
I'll take one too.
All right, let me see if I got
no, I got a book.
You got a book?
Yeah,
you got that actual book?
Yeah.
Yeah, with that in? All right, cool. So basically, the first thing that you're going to do is your in-cab safe start. Turn the key over once. Watch the dash light up. You hear the clicking. And you'll see the dash light up. Once that dash pretty much go out, the ABS light goes out, you can start the cab up. And from that point, you will actually build your air pressure up. It'll already be fanned down. The day of your test, us instructors, we put it in position, we fan it down below 90. So all you gotta do is start it up and build your pressure back up. When you start it back up, step on the gas, bring your RPMs up to 15, and what that does is actually help build your air pressure up a lot quicker. If you sit here and just wait, it takes about 3 to 5 minutes to build up. So I want to cut that time in half. So I'm waiting to hear the government cut up. We're going to wait for us to hear that. That's the government cutout. Once we hear that, we know we're at a full tank at 120 PSI. I know I'm at a full tank, so I basically want to tell the tester who's sitting in the passenger seat. I now would like to perform my air brake test. My air brake test consists of me turning my engine off, turning my power back onto my truck to safe start, and releasing my brakes. And from this point on, I would tell the tester I would like to hold my service brake for 1 minute. Within that 1 minute, I shouldn't lose more than 4 PSI. Can you please time me? And they'll say, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. Are you ready? You say yes, they'll say, all right, the time starts now. Only when they say your time starts is when you then put your foot on the brake. If you do it before, by accident and release, that's an automatic fail. So wait to hear them say you can now start your time. And you just hold that brake down for that 1 minute. Within that 1 minute, at 90, when you release the brakes, the actual air pressure drops from 120 and it settles around 90. From there, when you put your foot on the brake, it may drop just a tad bit more, but after that, it will hold for that whole minute. Okay. And after that minute is up, it shouldn't move no more than 4 pounds of pressure, and they'll tell you to release. Only release when they say your time is up, all right? Okay. And from that point on, you tell them I'll now fan my brakes to approximately 60 pounds of pressure, and that's when my 2 warning lights and buzzers should actually engage. So at this point, after you explain first, then you can go ahead and fan down. Only then you can fan down. Explain always what you do first before doing it. Alright, the beeping and the warning lights, red lights came on both of my air tanks. Let me know I have low pressure. At this time, I'm gonna fan my brakes down to approximately 40 pounds of pressure or lower, to where my 2 parking valves should actually pop out and engage. So zoom in a little bit, come on up. You can look at those red and yellow parking valves. As I fan down below 40, they should both pop out. All right, now, the key thing that a lot of people would fail, they will forget to turn that key back to the on position or release the brakes. And that's what caused a lot of people to fail the air brake test. So I always say it's 3 key steps, and say them out loud when you're doing your air brake test. Some people do it in their head, and they'll just turn the key off and release the brakes. Forgot to turn it back on. If you don't turn it on, you won't hear them buzzards and you won't see the red lights. Or if you don't push them in when you fan below 40, valve's not gonna pop out if you didn't push them in. So make sure you get that covered and say it out loud. Key off, key on, release my brakes. I now would like to perform an air brake test. All right, so once you completed the air brake test, which we just did, first 1 minute hold for 4 seconds, then fan down below 60, warning lights and buzzers, fan below 40 and the 2 valves pop out. You can tell them I completed my air brake test. I'm going to rebuild my engine back up and bring my air pressure back to 120 at the governor cutout to perform the parking and service brake test, which is your tug test. Start it right back up, step on the gas, park the wheel, that's going to build that air pressure back up. Now this tug test is very simple, very easy. What we'll do, once we get the air pressure up, we're just going to release one of the brakes, put it into a gear, drive. Tap on the gas and hold. Tap on out, pushing my trailer brake. Tap on the gas, the truck brake hold. Put it back in neutral. That concludes my tub test. Now the next thing should be service brake test. Service brake test you don't have to physically do, but you do want to tell the tester that if I perform my service brake test, or if I was to perform my service brake test, I would put my vehicle in drive no more than 5 miles an hour forward, hit my brake, and see if my truck pulls to the right and left. That's the service brake test. After that, I believe it should be light indicators, if I'm not mistaken. All right, light indicators, you're just gonna check your left signal, make sure it works. Right signal, that works. Pull back for your high beams. Right here with the P and the light bulb, you push that in for your low beams. All right, and then your hazard lights are up top. Click that back. They all work. From that point on, what's next on the list? Should be windshield, I think, and monitoring devices. Oh, emergency equipment, perfect. So that'll be your ABC fire extinguisher. You want to check that and make sure that that pin is in the green so you know it's fully charged. Logging pin in position. Then you got 3 reflective triangles, which are under the passenger seat. Spare fuses in the glove box. Those are your 3 emergency equipment. You got questions?
No.
Oh, okay. So after that, it should be, I think, windshield wipers. Yeah. Windshield wipers and traffic monitoring devices.
You know the rating of the fire extinguisher, like 5B?
No, it's, you don't have to know. It's an ABC, so it's covering all ratings. Yep. So for your windshield, you want to make sure that your windshield it has no illegal stickers or obstructions blocking your vision. It should be properly sealed. And remember these 3 key details. Securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damaged, or leaking. All right, you pretty much want to say that for everything. And if it doesn't have air or fluid through it, you don't have to say leaks. All right. Other than that, then you'll check your traffic and monitoring devices, which will be your mirrors. All right, your mirrors should be connected to the bracket connected to the door. They should be securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, no CDLs, crack, damage, or leaks. All right, that's another way to remember it. If you forget, you can look at the side of the truck or the trailer, CDLs, crack, damage, or leaks. Make sure you say that. All right. Now, from that point on, we want to check the windshield wipers and fluid. So we push that button in. Once we get that on, the windshield wipers and fluid, it shows. Just push that in, that knob there. We can see that the windshield wipers are flush to the windshield. Blades connect to the arm connect to the truck. They're securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, no CDLs, crack, damage, or leaks, and the blade is not driver out of freight because it is a rubber part. All right, and then from there we check our heat and defrost. So we turn to the heat setting, turn all the way to the right to your defrost setting, and turn it on high. Fill up top, fill down bottom, and you can turn it off and turn it back to the cool setting because even though you turn it off as you're driving, it still push heat through if you got it on the heat setting, so you don't want to be cooking it here. So just turn it back to the AC setting. All right, and then from there, I believe should be horn. Is that it? And then it has external light check. Your external light check is basically the buddy system where you can ask the tester, can you please perform the buddy system with me and help check my outside light indicators to make sure they work, and they'll get out front and signal you right, left, high beams, hazards, headlights, go to the back, the same thing, left, right, brake lights, reverse lights, and they check those and they give you the thumbs up. After that, turn the engine off and they'll say step out through your front lenses. The front lenses will be your lights. Just come to the front and you can let them know as you approach, make sure the truck is not leaning left or right, which indicates a suspension or a flat tire issue. But you also want to check your light indicators, your signal lights on both sides, headlights and clearance lights up top. Make sure that they are all securely mounted. No missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or damaged. All right, and then from there, I believe the next thing on the sheet should be fluid levels. And that's where we pop the hood and start on the driver's side. Pull this little rubber latch up on both sides. The hood. All right, so from here, we go right to this section. Now over here, me personally, I like to put stuff together to make it a lot easier so we're not doing individual parts at one time, and that's killing our clock. You do get 45 minutes to perform this, and you should be able to do it within less than 20-25 minutes, all right? Once you get fluid with the information. So me personally, I like to say all connecting hoses and wires on this side of my engine are securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, no cracks, damage, or leaks. And all of my reservoirs that hold fluid on this side are also securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not crack, damage, or leaking as well. So that should cover all my fluid leaks, because the next under the fluid level should be fluid and air leaks. So that covers all my fluid leaks. And then I'll also say when I pop the hood that I don't physically hear any air leaks. So that covers my air leaks as well. So the way we check our fluid levels for our coolant reservoir, if you can swing around here, you'll see that our coolant reservoir has a sight glass and it reads between add and max. So as long as it's in that within that add and max line, we're good to go. If we need to fill any fluid to any of the reservoirs that hold fluid, we always wait till the engine is off and cooled to do so. Because if not, if I open this cap right now and the engine's been hot, that pressure can blow up and have that fluid burn you. All right, so you always want to make sure the engine is cool before doing so. All right, then we check the power steering and also the oil dipstick the same exact way. We pull those out, wipe them clean, reinsert them, pull them back out, and they should also read between add and full. All right, from there, it says steering system should be next, and that'll be your steering gearbox, connecting arms, rods, and drag link, cancel nuts, Carter keys on both ends. They should be securely mounted, not missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or damaged, steering gearbox not leaking fluid. All right, and from there, I believe it's tires, I think. Tires. So tires, you want to check the outside and inner wall of the tires for any cuts, bulges, or bubbles, or abrasions. All right, you want to check the tread depth as well. So for the front tire, the tread depth should be 430 seconds, exactly. All right, and no recaps are allowed on the front tire, but on the back tire, the recaps are allowed, and the tread in the back is 230 seconds, exactly. And you can remember that by 2 dual button tires in the back, 230 seconds, 2 tires, 230. All right. So once you complete that, I believe it's the rim next. Rims should have no illegal welds. They should be securely mounted, not missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or damaged. And your lug nuts also should be fully present. You should make sure you have all your lug nuts and make sure there's no rust trails leading the way or no shiny threads. That indicates looseness. All right, and if there's a loose nut, definitely want to tighten that up before you pull off. All right, so from there, I believe it should be there. Before we get to that, from there, I believe once again, yeah, the valve stem and cap, you want to make sure those are present, and you check those with the air pressure gauge to read the air pressure tire, the tire air pressure, I'm sorry, which should be 80 to 100 pounds of pressure. And from there, I believe it should be the shocks. Is it the the suspension system, which will be your shocks, your leaf springs, as well as your airbags. Those should be the 3 things on that list on the front side. So you want to read off this front side. Turn it over, read off the front side. So we're with shocks, airbags, because that's what you, shocks, airbags, and springs. So basically your springs are your leaf springs. Those are the leaf springs. You want to come on up. Leaf springs right here. Not shifted or missing. They're securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or damaged. Then you have your shock absorber, top and bottom mount. Shock absorber, securely mounted, not missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damaged, or leaking. And then the airbag, depending on which truck you have, they may or may not have an airbag. If you come on back to the second axle, we do have one on this truck, but there's not one on that truck. So this truck, you got an airbag, AKA an air bellow is the proper term. All right, but that's your airbag. You also want to point that out and let them know it's securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damage, or leaking air. Now from there, I believe it's the brake leaks. Brake system. Yeah, the braking system, brake leaks, and brake contaminants. All right, so your brake leaks will consist of just your brake hose and brake chamber. They have air running through them. So you want to make sure that those two, your brake hose and chamber, brake hose and chamber, are securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damage, or leaking any air. And your brake contaminant will be your brake lining, which sits inside the brake drum, both brake drum and lining. Brake lining should be proper thickness, shouldn't be worn dangerously thin. Brake drum and lining should be free of contaminants such as oil or grease. And the only reason I say that is because this right here is a hub oil seal. If that was to have a crack on either side, it can leak on either side of your brake drum and brake lining, which can stop you from actually stopping. It'll stop the friction from the brake lining on the brake drum. Because brake lining are your brake pads, basically. All right? And you want to make sure it's nothing slippery to prevent you from stopping. All right? So from there, what's next on that list? Reflector lenses. All right, so your reflector lenses on the side of the trailer and truck will be your side marker lights. Side marker lights, which should be amber to the front and all the way in the end, they should be red to the rear. Your DOT reflector tape should be alongside the truck and trailer, should be securely mounted, not missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or damaged. And after that, I believe is what? Battery? Mirrors, traffic and monitor devices, which would be your mirrors again. You do them on the in and outside of the truck. Make sure that the mirrors are connected to the bracket connected to the door, securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or damaged. And I believe battery should be next. Yeah, so your battery compartment right here, you want to make sure that's securely mounted, not missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damage, or leaking battery fluid, and also no excessive corrosion around your connection lines. And then it should be fuel tank, which is on the other side, so we walk around that side. So on this side, your fuel tank and straps. Fuel straps should have no shininess around them, which indicates looseness, similar to the lug nuts. All right, so the fuel straps, no shininess. Fuel tank and straps, both secured, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damaged, or leaking. Then you have your few electrical lines and hoses. Make sure they're securely mounted, not missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damaged, or leaking. Also, being that they have rubber casing around the electric lines and fuel lines, make sure they're not dry rot, melted, or frayed. All right, and then the fuel cap. Inside the cap, they have a chain and a rubber seal to prevent you from losing the cap and prevent leaks from that rubber seal, that gasket. All right, and they're secure, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damaged, or leaking either. All right, and after that, I believe it's the frame. So your frame right here, frame and cross members. Cross members go across the frame. And if we were to lift the truck in an upward position, it's in the shape and form of a ladder. All right, and they should also be securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damaged, leaking, and no illegal welds on our frame. All right, next should be, I believe, fifth wheel section. Air and electrical lines. All right, so your air and electrical lines, here are your air lines. Blue is service, red is emergency, green is your electric line. All right, so here you basically just tell the tester that I would feel and listen on both sides of my truck and trailer air lines. We have glad hands on the trailer side, couplings on the truck side. Glad hands trailer side, couplings truck side. I will feel and listen on both ends to make sure I don't feel or hear any leaks. I'll make sure they're properly connected, securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damaged, or leaking, not dry rotted or frayed. And my electrical connection on both sides, truck and trailer, securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damaged, and also not melted or frayed. And then after that should be fifth wheel section, right? So we go on the other side of the truck. That's where all the fifth wheel parts are. As we do the fifth wheel, if you can remember that there are only 8 parts to the fifth wheel. Me personally, I like to name them together in twos, by twos, because each part that I name is actually physically touching each other. All right, so the first part that I personally named that may or may not be on your list, or they may say it's a locking device, all right, and that would be your locking jaw and kingpin. The locking jaw and kingpin literally is right up underneath this section here. You don't have to come under here and say that or point it out physically. You can stand back here and just point in that direction and tell them that my locking jaw is secure around my kingpin. Kingpin is not bent or broken. Both parts securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or damaged. And from there, you got your apron. That's the frame of the trailer. That's called an apron. All right, and that sits on top of the fifth wheel, AKA the skid plate. All right, so the apron sits on the skid plate, and as we look in between the apron and skid plate, there's no gap visible, and it's properly lubricated or properly greased. All right, and those two parts are securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or damaged. Remember, each part that I'm naming, they're actually touching each other, or they're right next to each other, which will be the two next parts. Your hitch release lever, this is what you pull out to unattach your trailer or undo the locking jaws if you pull this out. All right, so that's your hitch release, and then you have the locking pin in position. You take that pin out, you can remove the fifth wheel. All right, so that locking pin and hitch release are both in the lock position. Securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or damaged. And now you have the platform with which the skid plate is sitting on, that triangular shape, that's your platform. They're held down by the mounting bolts. So platform and mounting bolts, securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damaged, there. All right, and that's your 8 parts. Locking jaw kingpin,
hitch release, and apron. Locking pin, apron and skid plate, and platform and mounting bolts. Those are 8 parts. All right. What's next on that list?
Landing gear.
Landing gear and landing gear clearance. So your clearance will be between the 5th wheel and the landing gear. You just let them know that you have proper clearance and your landing gear is in the proper raised lock position. Landing gear and crank handle both in the lock position, securely mounted, no missing nuts or bolts, not cracked, damaged, or leaking there. And then I believe it's reflectors and lenses to the rear, which should be red in color, and your DOT reflector tape in the back. Both should be securely mounted, not missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or damaged. And that covers everything from your pre-trip, the red lenses to the rear, and your DOT reflector tape. They're present, securely mounted, not missing nuts or bolts, not cracked or damaged. And from that point on, they'll then, once you pass that section, they'll say, all right, we're going to have you walk the actual course that you're going to be doing your skills on. They will literally walk you through it, each one. They'll walk you down, tell you where to stop at, where they want you to back up at. They tell you how many times you get out, what the point is for the cones if you hit them or if you go outside the lines, and then they'll have you jump in the truck and actually do your skills. All right, so that concludes the pre-trip for today.